Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tea with GPS, informal conversations with thought leaders in India and abroad. Today, our distinguished guest is DHANYA RAVI, a most exceptionally courageous, strong, brilliant person who has a disease which is very rare. I leave it for her to explain what it is, but what I know is that she has lived it with it for the last 28 years with courage and with perseverance. One bone fracture can ruin your life. When you have 56 of them, it can really devastate you. But look at her. What a lovely face, what courage, what smile. So she is really a hero or a heroine of our land. So welcome, Tanya.
Thank you, sir. It's a great privilege to be part of this sessions and more importantly, to have some time with you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I said I would like you to tell us the journey that you had so far very briefly before we go on to other issues.
My journey with my condition?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm born with a rare condition, a congenital disease called osteogenesis imperfecta. Commonly, it's called as brittle bone disease. The character of my condition is that it's going to be my lifelong companion. And until 15 years of age, my bones used to fracture quite often. And yeah, as I grow up and as an adult, the fracture count actually reduces. So the basic reasoning of the condition is because it's a deficiency of type 1 collagen, which is something that I don't have and you have. And that makes my bone brittle. Today, whatever this divine design I have is because of my bone fractures. Journey with this condition definitely is not easy, but whatever I'm today, it is because of my condition. So I think there is two sides for everything, starting from my schooling to my work, even the society, from my family. It was not an easy journey, but things evolved better through as I closely understood myself.
Well, but is there a cure or is there a possibility of your being out of it?
Osteogenesis imperfecta or most of the rare diseases are incurable. In India, there is almost 7,000 rare diseases, and mine is just one among them, and most of them are incurable. So, during my times of birth, uh, technology doctors, no one was aware what is happening to me, and it took almost 2 months for my parents and the doctors to really understand why I was crying more than actual baby used to cry. So it took a lot of time in that sense. But although my parent was being so supportive in giving me the best care available in the medical field, medicines were not there. But in the recent times, there are a couple of medicines that has come out for osteogenesis imperfecta. Um, Likely, how the medicine work is that if a patient with OI or a server with OI has been used with a particular medicine, maybe in a year where 10 fractures would happen, 5 fractures will happen because the medicine actually supports to reduce the fractures, but that's again not going to stop you from fractures. It's just going to
But
reduce.
at the moment, you have no fracture on your body, do you?
No, after my teenage, no.
I see. Oh, that's good.
But
How many people like that are in India? You must
But
be.
over the years of time, I've got more than 200 fractures in my body.
No, that I heard. No, but how many people are there in India with this disease? You know about?
In Kerala alone, there is 120 people whom we know on a database. But in India, there are a couple of many. But fortunately or unfortunately, our data is not proper. The census doesn't come out well, or maybe there is stigma involved in the family. So almost there are about 1,000 plus persons with OI, and I personally know about 100 and plus people with OI only in Kerala. And
But
when it
are
comes,
you in touch with them? You have a group? Or,
yes, absolutely, yes.
I see. So you check with each other's, situation.
Yeah, we used
Yeah.
to discuss not just OI, most of the disability sector as such, with many of them, with different conditions. Like I said, there are 7,000 rare disease, and I, as a person, have touched upon only handful of conditions.
Well, that's a way to look at it because when you see that there are so many others, you feel that, okay, I'm one among them. That feeling must be comforting for you. You
Yeah.
know, Lakshmi Menon. I asked her, what do you think is the secret of Dhanya's success and perseverance? You know what she said? Mindset. So I said it's a fantastic diagnosis because I always talk about mindset inhibiting various things that we want to do. Like, for example, education, reform in education. I was for 5 years in Kerala Education, Higher Education Council, where I tried to bring in reforms. But no reform was acceptable because basically our mindset is against any change. You know, in Kerala, people protested when the computers were introduced. There were strikes. So similarly, there was a strike when I wanted to bring in private universities and foreign universities into Kerala. I was beaten up for it. So what is the problem? The problem is really the mindset. And today, the present government has decided to open our state for private universities. Imagine, so 10 years ago when I said it was done, the mindset blocked it. But here I heard that mindset can be positive. So do you agree with that as an analysis?
Over the years, I think it is a experience and something what I could really remember right now on spot like was that children are not recommended to use mobile phones in the school days, but COVID taught us children are eligible to use smartphones during the COVID days. But fortunately, I think it's the people learn through experiences, and the world that we see. Maybe sir have seen explore different nations in the span of time. So you find it relevant to come, get that into our country or our state. And now maybe our present government has been explored at this point of time. They had the thought process. So I think learning is something that we all need to have, and how we explore matters. And that's where we as a person grow.
No, but Dhanya, do we have to reinvent the wheel?
It's
Many,
not about
many people have gone through this. We know how success has been achieved. Of course, we will say industrial revolution. They did not care about the environment. They did not care about human rights. And now those people are telling us, the Westerners are telling us, don't develop too fast. Don't make the mistake we made, right? So we protest against that. We say no. We also have to develop. You developed, and then you are wasting the resources of the world. And that is why we have come to this. I'm sure you are an environmentalist yourself.
yeah.
But the argument that for the sake of the environment, we should not develop is what the Westerners are telling us. And Mrs. Gandhi was the first one in 1972 to protest against it. She said this is environmental colonialism. She said those who ruined the earth must pay for it, not advising us to not to develop. Of course, things have changed, about Rio conference and various others, Paris Agreement, and now, so there is a lot of awareness, but still the problem is not resolved. We still, if we go like this with all the conditions imposed, we go like this, we will still have 3 degrees Celsius increase in a year. And with 1.5 degrees Celsius, we'll be all underwater. So how are we going to survive 3 degrees Celsius?
Yeah, sir, I really feel that mostly people are not ready to take risk in life, and only when they kind of suffer They
Not
kind
even
of
ready to change lifestyles.
yes, they're very limited. I, as a person with woman with disability, even today, even the sector has changed a lot. Even today, if I try to go out alone or maybe try to do something, people question me, why do you want to go alone? Or that set of normalism doesn't come over here. And I really feel a state like Kerala, like now we have come to a stage like we have seen the youth going abroad and studying or maybe working in abroad. So it's a realization for us that why are we not getting that kind of international education in our state? So once
Absolutely.
that is good, then our children's are here. So probably the moment. So it's a realization that has sparked in the recent time when many of the youth started working abroad and they started getting settled there or they feel the quality education is over there. So I think it's through the experience and more importantly like how we kind of experience so far is like people are never ready to take risk or face accept changes or what it means to be on the other side of the road.
Absolutely. But when you are forced to do those things, when you have no other way, then you need all the courage to live with it. There are two ways of doing it. One is to surrender to it and say, okay, I cannot do it. But you have fought it very bravely. What made you do that?
I think it's not about forcing like Kausa said, but for me, what made me face my journey in a very courageous way was that I felt it's a life of mine and I need to battle it alone. Like I have a wonderful parent, my parents, my family have accepted me the way I am, but I kind of grew up from a space where uh, I don't have anyone to navigate me. I have some resources here and there, but there's no one to navigate me. I had to find things on my own. So it's for me, it is about a realization that it's my journey and I need to make it up, or maybe I need to go and find way to it. And a lot of discrimination, stigmas have fallen on me. So probably that helped me to be more stronger for what I am today.
Good. That's why we admire you for the way you have handled this crisis. You heard what Winston Churchill said, no? Never let a big crisis go away. It should be used. You know. So he was talking about the Second World War. And he was saying that after the, I don't know whether Winston Churchill actually said it, but people think he said that. Never let a good crisis go away. Make use of it. So you have made use of it because you have adjusted yourself to it, you have grown with it, and you are able to cheerfully face it. It's a very remarkable achievement. As far as I'm concerned. But what are the causes that you are now championing apart from this disease and developments with regard to that? Like you make TEDx talks. What do you really focus on?
So, coming to a very personal side of mine, I'm a person who likes to be in a very closed room, maybe because I'm used in that way. Almost 19, 20 years, it is always my room, which has been the university, the hospital, the place I rest, the place I have all the joy. It's always inside the four walls. Or maybe that has made me feel I'm a very private person or likes to be inside the four walls, but actually life took me to the way I'm supposed to do was when I chose to do an action. So it was actually a medical report that is actually a medical support, a newspaper ad that actually turned out to be a turning point in my journey. I happened to connect few people, help them for the medical surgery while I was volunteering for a couple of online groups. I'm talking about 12 years backstory, and it's from there things have changed. My world has been the internet. Being inside this where no schools, I've always learned it through the internet and some of the people that I connected with. And that's when I kind of realized that it's not just me. There are many people in the society that goes through the same stigmas and discrimination that I go through. And I realized that, but for me, whenever I go through such stigmas or discrimination, I've always found it something very nice for me to grow up. Or, I found it very liberating. But I find the opposite people finding their life or maybe their existence doesn't value. So that's where I wanted to try talking to them, helping them reflect how valuable their life is. So when I just started doing those little things in a very humble way, there is a huge group that has been, stuck. I felt maybe they have not got proper education, or maybe some issues in the family or in the workplace, not being able to live the life that they wanted in the disability sector. So all these issues actually made me give. It was a huge eye opener for me where I wanted to get involved. So at that point of time, whatever I'm able to contribute today, it is because of the choices that people made in my journey. So I had some wonderful networking people who actually supported me. Along with my family, there are a couple of friends and a few people who actually came up and said, let's do some awareness. Let's start a community. Let's see how, as a society, we can make some small changes. So things happened from there. So I started doing a lot of awareness television shows from organizational level to independent level, or being part of as a freelancer. So in couple of ways, so for me it is about being into the disability sector and trying to do what I can do. So for that I was multiply playing on individual way as well as organizational and sector wise. And I started doing a lot of awareness programs. I started giving individual, support, my knowledge sharing, helping them connect with different people based on what they wanted to do. And if I'm being vulnerable in the society today by speaking my story, or even the TED Talk or all these channel platforms, is because I want to see a generation of people who are free from rare diseases, and where the youth really takes up this, very in a very mature way.
Amazing, amazing. But aren't you happy that you were born in the internet age? Suppose there was no internet when you were born, maybe it was not there. It took some time. Like that, when the COVID came, the same thing. If there was no internet, what would we have done? We'd
Yeah.
all been suffocated because we all want to communicate. And fortunately, we had this great gift, which is. But from your memory, ever since you had this problem, the internet was already there, right? So not so sophisticated, but you had that support.
Yes, absolutely. Um, Even today, if I'm living a dignified life, or me being able to work on a very small scale, it is because of the internet. If internet was, I started up my job from a data entry. As I said earlier, I saw the world through the internet. I could connect with some like-minded people with some different platforms like Facebook, Yahoo, Orkut, LinkedIn, and all these. So where I feel it's about networking and trying to connect with the right kind of people who actually complement each other journey.
Yes, we now talk about the WhatsApp University. And people say in the old days, Mata Pita Guru Devam. Now it is Mata Pita Google Devam. Have you heard this?
Yeah, I think internet or whatever this technology is something really nice, but it is about we as a person understanding how do we use it. Like, it has been the nice as well as the worst. Like, I live with technology powered. I travel on a powered wheelchair very easily. And if this was not invented, I would be struggling for my movement from one room to another room. So, it's always this technology that has helped me a lot. But I really feel there is always a darker side for everything. So it's we as a person take responsible and know where we need to be, with whom we need to connect, or how we certainly use certain platforms.
Have you been abroad in the country?
Yes, I've been to Boston. I've been to Florida, Miami, New York, and a couple of very few places. Yes.
And you got some medical attention there?
With God's grace, I didn't have to be hospitalized during my times to US.
No, but did somebody examine you and see some new insights?
No, I didn't go for much research part and that way. But Vellore CMC in our own country is coming up with some stem cell therapy for OI. Medical research are happening. But where I see the change is not just for OI, it's for the whole community as such, the rare disease where I really wish we have mandatory, early genetic test that comes into the platform. So there's a root level of system or policy change if we could get into our space. There is a lot that could happen. For my condition, I've not done any research on the abroad side as such because I don't know. Maybe I've come in terms with my condition and I see I'm enough in this way.
No, but so research must be going on somewhere. And
I am certainly part of some researchers with Velo CNC and couple of other things. I'm definitely part of some researchers. And yeah, stem cell therapy is something that we're looking out the change in a very soon. It might not happen. It's a medical field. There's a lot of ups and downs that's going to come up. So it's a long way. I think down the 5-10 years we might get some more beautiful updates on that.
How about your education?
My education, I could not go to.
I like your laughter. It's a painful laughter, though.
Now, when I talk about education, I don't know. Education is the academic books or it is a learning outside the academics.
No, but initial learning, your parents taught you the alphabet.
That's where I see education. So, yeah, in academic ways, I could not go to mainstream schooling because during my age, schools were not inclusive. They were not accepting me the way I am on those times. So I could not.
Even now there are prejudices. You heard
Yes.
the story of a boy not being allowed to get onto your flight.
Yeah, there is definitely, yes, there is. Lot has changed because at least I feel few more activist or maybe feel some, at least on some places I see changes. Still a long way to go. Since I could not go to mainstream schooling, I was at my home, but a neighboring auntie took initiative in teaching me. For 10 long years, she came home and voluntarily taught me every 2 hours a day with proper school academic books from my friend. So even those times, even my parents were not, so much aware like the importance of education, especially for a person with disability or a woman as such. They were like not too sure whether it's required. But my auntie was very sure that she wants to teach me. So I completed my 10th in that way. And after that, I had a small break. And later, when I came into the social place, um, again from the organizational level, we had a project to educate, empower persons with disability. So through that, I continued my education through Open University, and then I started taking certification on writing. So yeah, I work as
Did you get an actual degree? Did you get an actual degree from somewhere?
Yes, I completed my plus two, and then I started taking a lot of certifications. I was more keen in that way. Like I wanted to do studies on where with something that will help me on my work more than me getting into degrees and graduations. So I completed my plus two. Then I took up certain certifications in terms of writing.
And you are not thinking of looking for a job of any kind?
I work as a full time employee for an organization called Enable India that again works for employabilities, possibilities for employment in the disability community. And there are a couple of things. The organization works for the empowerment of persons with disability. So somewhere on the other, I'm still contributing into the sector.
Oh, that's excellent. But what do you think the government still has to do about this? Is that also part of your message that much more should be done for diseases like this and also general disabilities?
So, like I said,
even wheelchair access is not common in India. Even in the US, it is just coming up. I remember when I was there in the UN, for the first time, they set up wheelchair access. Just maybe 20 years ago. Before that, it was not there. And here, it is impossible. There is nowhere you get that access except in very sophisticated buildings. And so such things, such small things the government can do very easily. Just change the regulations, say that there must be a wheelchair access. And also create an access which is accessible. I just saw, the State Bank of India, ATM, they made half the stairs so-called accessible. And that is more dangerous than the stairs. I tried to step on it and I slipped. There's no thought given at all. Just put a little plank there, a metal plank, and removed half the stairs, with the steps which were there. It was much easier to climb that. Here you have to avoid the so-called access. So these are things which are done thoughtlessly, and unfortunately, the consciousness is not there. So when people like you speak out, I think it will have more emphasis and more relevance that you are telling them that this is what you need to do. They don't have the eyes to see that. And that, I think, would be a good contribution.
And I'm coming from a generation where I've seen where this is not there. And now something is happening. So during my initial first few years, accessibility, what is that? Assistive aids, what is that? But at least now, down past 10, 12 years, I see people using wheelchairs, hearing aids, glasses. Our own glasses is one of the assistive aids that we use. And, coming from there, there might be some thoughtless actions, but I still feel like someone thought about accessibility. So I'm coming from that pain that people really doesn't know what is accessibility. But where I still feel is that today we have Volvo buses accessible, but but the pathways are not accessible.
Kneeling buses, yeah.
But the pathways are not accessible. How can I go till the bus station? The roads doesn't have a private pathway for a walking or for a wheelchair user. So it's a high risk. How do I go till the bus station? And again, when it talks about now, most of the railway station these days are accessible, but the trains are not accessible. And how can a person with wheelchair get inside the train independently? So there are many things that still needs a push. I think we all as a person take this as our own responsibility to some extent. I really feel like now what we kind of do is we gather some volunteers with us and we make certain places accessible, starting from restaurant or maybe some particular halls, attending a wedding or a pilgrimage, temple, church. Nothing is possible because there's a lot of steps. So we kind of covering up a few places where we spend because I feel it's not the disability community that we're contributing. Down the few years, an able person might require to travel on a wheelchair to a government office for some paperwork. And if that is not accessible, how can they do that? So
But in the United States, it is now compulsory that when you build a new building, at least a certain percentage of the blocks or apartments must be disabled friendly.
Yeah, a universal structure has to come.
We built a building for the Permanent Mission of India in New York. We did not know this rule. So I was surprised when I first went to that building to inspect it. And I saw these flats where everything was low level, doors were opening both ways. I just could not even make out why this was. And then they said, yes, but I said, there is no disabled person in our mission. So what do we do with this? He said, no, this has been designed like that. So when you have one, then he or she will have an easier time. So it's a regulation. And therefore, such regulations must be brought in India. And that is very essential to give attention to the disabled people or differently able people, as we call them.
Yeah, there should definitely be a universal structure, that the infrastructure that has to come in our country or maybe our own state. I would say last week when I was traveling to Kollam, I was traveling by train and for a talk at one of the university. So while I was coming back to my hometown, I was just sitting on the railway station and I was just thinking, how will a person with hearing impairment know the train is coming? Because there was no digital boards.
Right.
And there is a speaker definitely who says that this train is coming at this time. But how will a person with hearing impairment know that the train is coming? Where would they stand? Where are they getting any
No,
assistance?
even worse, the blind people.
Blind persons with vision impairment can hear. Maybe
No,
the digital
here, but
boards,
how many other things he has to do? You know.
tactiles. So these are like, so there is a universal pattern that has to come. I think from the government level when they really ensure like any new building approval they give, certain things has to be followed. I think that's where the change will slowly, come up.
You know, so that's probably one of the things that you advocate.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
and for the young children, what do you do to them? What do you tell them?
That's where I said, no, once we as a person be responsible in terms with our own self and to the community, you don't have to aim to be a change maker. You just have to do your job and you will find your passion there.
That will
You
inspire others.
you will find your where your ability. There's a lot that I think today we are one of those who are born in a very beautiful age where we have access to technology, where we have access to good quality education, lot of good things are around us on a very very abundant way. So we have to make use of it. We make that time one of the most beautiful way by contributing. It starts with our own self. Like I, as a person with disability, I know the importance of each organ. So I really believe that our youth to come up to understand how important health is, working on the well-being. There is a lot of like checklist that I would say it starts from a well-being. It starts from understanding your own self, your potential, working on that, contributing your commitment to your family, to your friends, and your self. There's a lot that happens.
Yes, yes, indeed. How about reading? What do you read and what do you write? Are you fond of poetry, novels, biographies?
So I am a self-taught writer. I would say I would found for me to be financially independent, writing was something that I felt would work on a very small way. So I started writing on my own. So I am having a blog. I don't contribute on a very ritual way, but I do write couple of my journeys as a journal. I use it, and there
Do
are
you have a Facebook page? Do you have a Facebook page and Twitter?
yes, I'm completely there on all the social media platforms, and I have contributed as a feature writer for a couple of websites. So I kind of write again for the lifestyle and for the disability community more. And even today for the organization that I work, also I have part of writing. And I don't read too many books. I do read books, but yeah, I prefer to watch a lot of movies more.
Because you can see it, do it inside your room. You don't need to go anywhere.
Yeah, movies and music has been a healer for me actually, more than any medicines.
And
And people,
conversations only online. Nobody comes into your room and talks to you except your parents.
I'm not really. I'm a very social person. I do have some very personal good friends of mine.
They
Yeah,
do come home, talk to
yes.
you. That's very good. So, what was your saddest moment and the happiest moment in your life so far?
I think every minute is very precious. There is nothing sad and happy. Like for me, when I see my achievement, if my like I still feel the tangible thing that I would still count on myself as a success is when a bone fracture and a joint. When a bone is fractured, we rest that part for almost 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And after that, one day when I wake up and I'm able to move that minor portion of my body, that's the happiest moment, I would say. And
That sense of fulfillment you get.
yes, that's the happiest moment. And but I'm really
You have no
thankful.
time to feel sad. You have no time to feel sad.
I think
But
yes.
you feel sad when you see something, people not being gracious, people not being fair.
Not really. I mean, the world is like that. I cannot expect too much from them. But sadness are definitely there. Yeah. But I don't feel bad when people, question me. Then, yeah, where is your leg? Or why are you like this? Or as a woman, how will you live in the society? There are so many questions that I get on a day-to-day basis. So that actually doesn't put me low. Actually, find it very. There are many people who ask me about my condition, and some people feel sad for it. Some people feel happy for what I am today. So I think I don't want to judge that. I really feel that's the people's curiosity, and I like to see it in that way. Maybe the sad moments in my times, I just definitely like any human being, maybe with the close friends of mine or the family, talks ups and downs.
No, don't
That's
you
when
feel why me? Why is
no,
it this happened to me?
I have never felt that. I have never felt that. And I never feel the why me at all. Why not me? That's where I see. So it's absolutely fine. And people seeing it
That's a
that.
great quality because when you, like for example, when I had a fracture and I was in a wheelchair, all the time I was wondering, why know all these people are walking, why am I not walking? What have I done? And then only you realize, the gift of life, how lucky you are to have all this. And then you have a little problem when you start worrying about it, feeling envious of those who do not have that problem. So that way, I think you are a model of behavior, a model of patience, a model of perseverance, strength, everything. So your life itself is a textbook, I would say, from what you say, because I don't think you can find a normal person, or I'm sorry, I'm not using the right word, somebody who has no disability would feel that way because you are always envious of others. You feel that we have not been able to do what they have done, or the others feel that you are too competitive and therefore they feel that they must put you down. These are all ways of life. So, in a sense, you have insulated yourself against these things, and that's probably a big contribution that you have made to mankind. That's what I feel.
I think we all have certain ability and potential. And, each time, I really never thought about my condition until my 10 years. I never knew why am I always on the bed or anything. So when I was 10 years, I started getting a lot of questions from my family, and what am I going to be like? How my age are going up? Where am I going to be like? So these were the questions that I grew up, and I feel suffering is very important, and it's only when we suffer we actually know about certain things. So pain and suffering is something very important in life, but what makes our life fulfilled or successful is how we deal with that. So, there is, as Sir said, you had a fracture and you were like, everyone is going there, why not me? But I would say what it is to be like on that wheelchair and thinking what you can do from that being on the chair. Let others walk around, but
I
why
did
not you
that.
sit and work
I
on that?
did that. I went everywhere, and everybody was very surprised why I was doing that.
Yes,
They were
that's
even carrying me on my wheelchair to a temple up there about 400 steps. They could have dropped me any moment. So people were saying, "Why are you taking that risks?" And I was playing golf from the wheelchair. So I tried various things. But
absolutely. The people are very nice,
yeah,
but sometimes, I think it is also good how we build an environment, how we sensitize. the society and the family, and more importantly, how we see ourselves.
Mahatma Gandhi said, "My life is my message." And I think you are an example of that. Your life is your message. We have to see you smiling and knowing what you are and what you are suffering from. That's a lesson. And
Not really, sir.
nobody can replicate it without this kind of an experience. So, in a sense, you are blessed that way, that you are able to communicate with people and imbibe them and inculcate in them a sense of, what you are and what you can do, even with the problems that you have. That's a really great
I
thing.
feel any flower is bloomed with the water, with the sunlight, with the air. Similarly, a person like me have been able to bloom with the people around. There are so many people who actually supported me and still support me and who be with me. There are still a handful of people who actually think in a very other different way. So I think there is, like how we say the coin has both the sides, there is both. But I think when we have a strong one thing, if we have a determination within ourselves to do something and we have a good team, I think that's where everything runs. It's not just me alone. Like, if I'm able to contribute in any way or anything, that is the good people who have stood with me.
Are you going to write your story? Or have you written already?
I am not too sure if I'll come up with a autobiography, but definitely I'll be coming up with a book very soon.
Oh, okay, good. But what kind of book is that?
It will mostly be about my journey, where how people actually see me, and I would like to keep it as a surprise.
My eighth book has come out yesterday, and
Oh,
most
wow.
people
Congratulations!
thank you. Most people did not know what I was reading, I was doing, but now everybody is surprised. What I so it's
I think
interesting.
I think I need to get a copy of that.
Sure, I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
And it's not a very big book. I have done several big books, but this is a very small book talking about the various aspects of the foreign service. Because most young people do not have enough information when they make a choice. When I joined the foreign service, I had no idea what the foreign service was all about. So this is just a little monograph, I call it, in which I say what a life of a foreign service officer is and work. Most people don't know. Many people have asked me, I know you're an ambassador, but what do you do? How many people know that?
True.
They think that we wear nice suits and sip Scotch whiskey and go around parties. That's the impression about the foreign service. So, but it has many challenges. I have faced armed attacks. I have faced expulsions. So it's not a bed of roses. But at the same time, there are so many attractions, so many things one can do. And so I thought somebody should put it all together, not as a kind of memory, but as a kind of guide.
Learning, yeah.
One of my senior colleagues wrote to me saying that I wish I had a book like this when I made the choice. And same with me. I had no idea. My father knew somebody who was in the foreign service, and so he thought it was something great. That's all, nothing more, nothing less. So when you are young, you really need that kind of guidance. People don't really think in terms of doing that in detail. And that's why I did that. So I hope that will encourage more people to join the foreign service. And
I
or
think
not join the foreign service, because I've also mentioned the challenges.
I think what makes
Yeah.
no, I was just sorry. I was just saying that what makes life successful is about having good mentors in life. Like, sir had that kind of people where you know what to do and I think awareness and mentorship plays a huge role in making all of our life to the better places.
But how much of mentoring do we accept? Are you sure when somebody tells you, don't you always take it with a pinch of salt?
Yeah, that's why people has to be very open to it, and a mentorship, it has two sides. One is about you giving a choice of what you like, And there's another way of mentorship that you find what the other person is good at and then you do the mentoring. So it plays it both ways, I felt. And I think any person today, we should not leave just with passion. We need to have a thriveness within us. We need to thrive for it, be that hunger and work on certain things. And that's where we kind of, but I'm happy, like, at least nowadays, when I ask certain youth, they are like little away from the engineering and doctor. They are still coming up with some new courses, new possibilities. Very 1% or 2% of people are coming up in that way. But like Sir said, not many are open to be into that mentorship because not many are able to take risk in life. They like to be in the comfort zone.
That's right. So when you take advice from others, you always suspect whether you will go in a wrong direction. That there. So, but then when we give advice, we don't really think about it. We really tell them what you think is good for them, and many ways it is accepted. But I was just thinking that mentorship may not be accepted by everyone in every situation.
Yeah.
So that's also maybe a you know.
It's about, it's again, from a very young age, if we are taught to take decisions on our own and being responsible for your decision, I think that also helps the person to understand where they can create their own identity.
And also they can try it out on others.
Yes.
Even if you take a decision, it will be encouraging and reassuring for you if you talk to others about it and see how they respond. Whether you eventually, like I always say, there's nothing called an independent foreign policy. Right? Everybody says we must have an independent. But how can you have an independent foreign policy? Because you have a clientele. The whole world is your clients, right? So you have to keep on adjusting your foreign policy in order to make it acceptable. You have to market it.
Yes.
So it's not enough that you have a good foreign policy, but it should be acceptable to the others too. And then you have to live in a society like that. So why is Putin being so badly criticized now? Because he seems to have taken a decision without any kind of thinking as to what he is doing to the world. So we can say I'm following an independent foreign policy, but what? How will he remember? So that is something which people do not.
Sure.
So thank you, DHANYA. It's been a very, very delightful conversation. I envy you for the joy that you bring to the people, for the way you have shaped yourself, the way you have faced adversity. All this, I'm sure you know. But I hope it's nice when you hear from someone else that we are right?
I mean, yeah, it's nice, but I never worked on that. I just faced my life, the way it is. I'm
Good.
just following the light of my life, and I'm just doing what I feel I'm supposed to do. There is a lot of.
Is there a thinker or a philosopher who's influenced you?
That's where I see that I have never read about any inspirational books.
So it's only your own philosophy. You have not.
It's
But I
not
think
my own philosophy.
the philosophy of Gandhi, which I just said, is good for you. My life is my message.
I never followed anyone, and there is no role model also as such for me. I really believe the role model, the inspiration should always be us, because that's when we learn to improve. We learn to grow, and otherwise we might think, oh, we read somewhere, we done this. There's nothing beyond that. But if if we, and I really feel once I kind of admire someone, or like someone as an inspiration, I might start to behave like them. I will start taking their pattern. So where my identity will not be there. So I kind of grew from a space where I never read any inspirational books, or I have never heard about Helen Keller or Stephen Hawking until my 18 or 20. I never took those books. For me, it was my life the way how I see it. And it more than the philosophy, I would say it is a life that has taught me.
Good. So take this message. My life is message that Mahatma Gandhi said. That's it. That is what you are.
I can never be the way how Gandhiji have contributed. My humble way of living my life is where I really believe each one of us learn to complement each other's life and accept differences in people in a very non-judgmental way.
Thank you, Dhanya. I'm sure this program would open the eyes of many people to the situation you are in. And also learn to admire you and to understand what you are trying to do. All the very best in your life. We'll keep watching.
Thank you so much for having me part of your series. It's a great privilege. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhanya.